Some of the top high school football players in the class of 2025 are going to be visiting Utah this summer, and we officially know the dates for spring ball and the spring game. All that and more on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen every single day. We are available on all platforms, including YouTube and wherever you may get your podcast. If this is your first time listening to our show, make sure you like and subscribe. Love interacting with all of you in the YouTube comments as well as on social media, where you can follow our show at Locked On Utes on X today. And the episode sponsor today is FanDuel. And you know, with FanDuel, it's the best place to get the best bets. You can make every moment more. New customers can join today, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Excited to be joined on today's show by Nathan Carter, an analyst for KSL Sports Rewind. He travels around and calls high school football games all the time, so he's gotten to see a couple of these guys that we're going to be talking about and is familiar with the high school game. So excited to break everything down with Nathan. And the first thing I want to talk about with you, Nathan, is the high school football recruits in Utah. They're going to be visiting Utah this summer. Jerome Miles, the four-star receiver, scheduled his date. It's going to be June 15th to come up to Utah. You also got a linebacker in Cyrus Polu, and I apologize for mispronouncing that name, but June 22nd, his visit in. And then Darius Afulava is going to be visiting on June 14th. It's always so important to recruit your own state well, because it's hard to get just elite talent in general. So I think it's important for Utah to make a strong impression on these guys. And I think it's great that they're going to be coming up to Rice-Eccles Stadium and checking out the stadium and everything on an official visit, Nathan.
Yeah, for sure. Great opportunity to get the local kids up to Rice-Eccles, check out all the facilities. Definitely excited to see Jerome Miles. Hopefully he's able to keep here in Utah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely a talented kid. Kind of a different profile of what you expect to see coming out of the state.
Yeah, when you're talking about Miles, I mean, that's just a really explosive receiver. And I think one of the things I love about Miles is the connection he has with a guy in Isaac Wilson already, where if those guys were able to do what they just did at the high school level, and then, you know, both of them upgrading their skills, training at Utah, developing that skill set, working towards all those things, and then they get to play together at the University of Utah, continuing that connection, I think that would only be a great thing. And Miles is a guy, too, you said, like, just this four-star talented receiver type. It's not the ones that you do always see out in Salt Lake City, so it would be great to bring him up to the University of Utah in the past, and the fact that he has that history with Wilson, I think could bode well for Utah. He's a guy who can do it all from the receiver position. When you're talking about some of the other guys like an Afulava, he's a guy I've had my eye on. I still remember when Skyridge won the state championship game back in 2 years ago, and you're like, man, that right tackle they got's really good. And it's like, oh, he's only a sophomore at that point. Are you kidding me? We saw him tear it up his junior year here too, and now he's got still his senior year to refine his schools, but his strength, his technique, you can't teach those type of things that he just naturally already has. I think he would be a great addition for Utah as well. And then when you're talking about the linebacker position, what Polu could bring to Utah as well, he's a guy I think that just provides that strong physicality, right? 215, 6'2". He's physical, like I said, but he can also move. So you get that strong presence on the interior. And I know for you, Nathan, you're always a fan of physical linebackers as well. And then we know that's something that Utah does produces at a very high level.
Yeah, it's been pretty deep lately. Guys roaming sideline to sideline, plugging up the gaps.
Yeah, they've been tremendous in that regard. And those are the in-state guys that it's so important for Utah to bring in and get. I'm not saying they need to land all of them. You got to land a few of them. And these official visits are always big. Leave a strong impression. You know, you get to interact with your teammates as your potential future teammates too. So get to know the guys, know the coaches, talk with them more, talk about your role. Just an official visit, you can do a lot with it. And that's where I think it's really exciting that Utah's bringing 3 talented players from the state of Utah up to campus. But it's not just about talented players in the state of Utah, especially when you're going to Big 12 country. You got to be able to recruit the state of Texas well. Utah's done a pretty good job of that in the past, but there's a guy who just named Utah to his top 5. His name is Bear Tenney. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Apologize if I did not pronounce it correctly, but this is a tight end. He's 6'6", 245, and Nathan, I'm a huge fan of this guy's game. When you're talking about a guy who's just, when I turn on, like if you're just like, what are the 3 words that describe him? Big, fast, and strong. And that's a recipe for a tight end I love. You're talking about a guy who can make contested catches. I think he moves really well for his size too. You can see why he's a well sought after recruit. Changes direction, always falls forward, like breaks tackles. It's just hard to bring down in general because of how strong he is. He fights for the extra yards, changes direction with ease. This is a guy who's already got a great physical profile. Mentioned the 6'5", 245 measurements that he has listed there, but he's a guy I think that could be a monster. And you're talking about a guy with him too, where his top 5 are Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Utah, Washington too. This is a guy that really excites me as well. And I know I said Texas by mistake as well. We're talking about a guy who's from Utah, of course. He did play just at Lehigh last year. So this is a guy that I just think would be a tremendous get for this university. And his film just, I got excited watching it, Nathan.
Yeah, film's exciting from what he had in Texas, coming out to play in Lehigh.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that Utes coaching staff is chomping at the bit to make sure that he doesn't leave the state. Looks like the Huskies coaching staff got to him a little bit quicker than Utah did when he was playing out in Arizona. So there might be a connection there to snipe him. That would be kind of the dark horse for me right now. But the way we've seen Utah develop tight ends, definitely have big hopes that we could see him playing for the Utes.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's the thing as well. Like when we look at it, like, yes, Colorado had a good year last year with their tight end, but even after that, he entered the transfer portal. Like, and Shador, you know, he's not going to be there for 2 years. So that kind of is, can they continue to use the tight end position well? That's where Utah's that proven track record. Same thing with a Florida. You know, Washington's offense with Jed Fish now. How are they going to be able to maximize and use the tight ends too? And obviously Georgia, look, I mean, what they have in Washington from last year's draft, Brock Bowers most recently, they have a great claim to fame, for tight end U as well. And I like you said, Tenny's a guy who he played his high school ball in Texas last year. I knew I was getting my wires crossed, and he's coming out to Lehigh now. So I think it's exciting to have his talents in the state of Utah. And, you know, he's a guy, Jet New, the Lehigh quarterback, is going to really enjoy throwing to him this coming high school football season as well too. But I think that, you know, Utah, in the 24 cycle, they made a decision to focus more on adding through the transfer portal, which I think because Cam and all these guys are coming back, I think that makes a lot of sense. But, you know, looking to 2025, when you have so many players moving on, like, yes, Utah will still add from the transfer portal, but this year you could really see a lot of players after go. That's where I think it's going to be nice to restock the cupboard a little bit and get more younger recruits in rather than be as transfer heavy as they were this year. And I like that Utah is already rolling in and making a strong impression on some of these really talented guys, Nathan.
Yeah. And Utah's still going to be recruiting kids, even if behind closed doors they tell them they're the number 2. With the power of the transfer portal, something doesn't work out with their number 1 choice after the first season, they're only one phone call away and one transfer window from hopping right back into the Utes uniform.
Exactly. And it's going to be so exciting to see if Utah can land these guys. And, you know, Nathan, the final thing I'll say too, and I know you know this well with all the games and everything you travel out to, there's a lot of talented high school football players in the state of Utah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Deep talent pool, fun, exciting high school football out here. It's fun to be a part of.
It absolutely is. It's a great group, and I'm excited to see if Utah can continue with some of these guys and bring them on. So that's what'll be very curious and interesting to see how the recruitment process goes. And yes, we have to wait a long time till these guys eventually put on the pads, make the recruiting decisions and all that. What we don't have to wait a long time, though, is for spring ball to return. It has been a long time, but we finally got the date of when spring ball, Utah football, is going to be back practicing, and we now know the spring game, too. Want to talk about all of that with all of you in one moment, but first, today, want to talk to you guys about one of the sponsors of our episode of Locked On Utes. It's our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive live at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Also want to talk to all of you about another sponsor of our episode of Locked On Utes today, our great friends at UCCU. Here's some exciting news. UCCU has just elevated their checking accounts by enhancing them with more benefits, more savings, and more online protections than ever before. A lot more, paired with the most advanced and comprehensive mobile banking tools. Elevated checking is a must-have financial product packed with lifestyle security and financial benefits. The lifestyle benefits alone include cell phone protection, roadside assistance, telehealth with 24/7 access to licensed health professionals with zero copay and exclusive savings on travel and shopping as well, plus dining. And elevated checking is free when you or any one of the following: use your debit or credit card 15 times or more a month, or make a monthly direct deposit of $500 or more to maintain an average daily balance of $1,500. Otherwise, UCCU elevated checking is only $6 a month. You can visit uccu.com to open an elevated checking account online, or stop by any branch to open an account. UCCU, love where you bank. Nathan, it's been a long time as we've kind of waited to see, like, when is the date of spring ball going to be? We knew that, of course, Utah football would be back sometime in March, knew the spring game would be played not too long after that, but it is great to finally see it officially announced and out there that practice begins March 12th. That's in the very near future. And then March 21st is when we also see the Utah Pro Day was announced. Then April 13th is when the 22 Forever game will be played. It's great to have these dates on the docket, and also great to know that we're not that too far away from just hearing reports about what's going on with Utah. Get a little bit of look at these guys from what the media can show and everything there. But I'm just excited that we are going to see Utah football back out there and get our first taste of what this team will look like in 2024.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. We have a lot, as we just talked about. We filled up the roster with a lot of transfers. First time being able to look at a bunch of them. Anthony Woods, I'm very excited to see. Followed a bit of Vandals football last season. Kid ran really hard. Obviously, the biggest elephant in the room is what's the condition with Cam and Keithy.
Yep.
How are they doing? Spring game should be fun, and I'm excited. I will be in town this time around, so should be able to make it out.
Yeah, always fun to see everyone out there. See the future of Utah football too. I'm excited to see, this will be the first time we get our look at Isaac Wilson inside of Rice-Eccles Stadium. We get to see how Brandon Rose is doing. That was someone who was competing for the backup quarterback job last year, won it at this time last spring, and then the injury robbed him of the opportunity to continue to go in that way. So that's where I'm excited to see both those guys back at it. You mentioned Woods, Dorian Singer, another guy. There are so many players that it's going to be great to get our first look at again for this Utah football team and the spring, whether it's a spring game, also just hearing about the practices, who's doing well, what are they thinking. We know Coach Witt, he's never going to reveal everything to us, but it's still going to be nice to hear what he's kind of feeling about the different groups, hear from the players themselves and various guys, coaches, all of that. Always great to hear from. And the Utah Pro Day being March 21st. Look, a lot of these guys got their opportunity at the combine, but nice to see the extra opportunity when they're close to home as well for these Utah football players to continue to boost their stock, because Nathan, Utah's got a lot of guys that have a really good chance to get drafted this year.
Yeah, for sure. There's a deep list. We don't have enough time to start walking through all of our favorites over and over again. But yeah, it was exciting to see how much representation the Utes had at the combine.
Yeah, it is. We'll be a lot more time to break down the pro day, the spring game, and of course the spring practices. A reminder, March 12th. It's Thursday. Practices will be Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. The graphic also reveals that Utah Athletics put out. So gonna be fun to watch that. And I think a little less than 3 weeks away, maybe even 2 weeks. I'm trying to remember exactly what it is, but it's closing in quickly, and it's gonna be fun to cover with all of you on Locked On Utes. But before we talk about spring football, before we continue to talk about Utah football, I want to talk about an exciting recruit that Utah just landed as we're looking towards the future of Utah football. And they landed a guy in a new recruit, and I already apologize if I mispronounce his name, but I believe it's Tanila Niala Ki-Tupo. This is a guy who just committed to Utah. He's a 2025. He's someone who's really long, athletic. When you talk about a guy who's 6'5", 220, right? A 3-star coming out of California, the potential is there. When I watch him, I see, like I said, just the potential is the biggest thing that stands out to me. This is a guy who, if he can continue to add strength, I think he could be a steal for Utah. And right now, like, I don't look at him and I'm like, okay, this is a guy right away who's going to walk into Rice-Eccles Stadium and start day one or anything like that. But he has the tools to be a very successful collegiate football player.
Yeah, for sure. I do love, there was a lot of questions about Utah leaving the Pac-12 if we would still have that reach or
Yes.
pipeline from California. Didn't matter to Nila if he's playing in the Pac-12 or the Big 12. He's ready to commit and come out here and play. So definitely excited to see coaches are still able to attract those kids right now.
Yeah, it's a great thing. When you're talking about the top high school football states, I still believe it's Texas, California, and Florida. So it's nice to see that Utah's continued to. We know they've added guys from Florida before. Going to continue to add guys in Texas, of course, and still keep the California connection going strong. Yes, it will be weakened by moving out of the Pac-12 to your point, Nathan, too, but nice to continue to add talent there as well. And once again, I just think that this is a guy in Kichipu who has a great opportunity to have success at the next level because of the physical just traits that he has, and just a really good early get for Utah. And I mentioned a couple of the guys already, but like, we had Moose Bingham on, your colleague on KSL Sports a few weeks ago, and he was talking about how much he loves Wyatt Becker at quarterback and all the things that he's able to do too. So it's early, but Nathan, it feels like this 2025 class is shaping up to potentially be a really strong one for Utah.
Yeah, for sure. And we see a lot of 3-stars on that roster of recruits coming in, and that's nothing new for Utah. That's who coaching staff loves to develop. That's kids with chips on their shoulder, ready to prove themselves wrong, be able to develop into pros.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see how these guys develop. Always, whenever you have 2025 commits, some of these guys, there's a chance they'll back out. You never know who that's going to be, but hopefully Utah can hold on to them. And, it'll be interesting to see how Utah continues to add to the strong recruiting class as well. That feels like they've already done a good job amassing, whether that's in state or out of state. We'll see what Utah can continue to do in the class of 2025, whether that's bolstering those players in the summer or getting some commitments right now. All of it always welcome when you're Utah football. And, speaking of Utah football, I want to talk about a former Utah football coach who is making waves after he departed. He was at USC. Now he's off to the NFL. I think a lot of you know exactly what I'm talking about, but I'm going to say his name in the third and final segment, because first, I want to give you guys a little bit more of a rundown on our great friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. You can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. There are so many great NBA action and games that you guys can get in on today, whether you're talking about seeing if a team like the Sacramento Kings can make a deep playoff run. How about the Phoenix Suns, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, the big three that they have amassed? Can they put together a stretch that takes them into the top 3 of the Western Conference? Over to the East, can the Cavs? There's all these looming rumors about Donovan Mitchell. What does his future hold? How are they going to continue to do right now? You can bet on all the individual accolades and team accolades today at FanDuel Sportsbook. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Nathan, big news out of the NFL last week as Adam Schefter reported the Chargers are finalizing a deal to hire USC running back coach Keel McDonald as their running back coach. This is a guy who had spent time at Utah, then went over to USC, so of course got to work with a Zach Moss. And it's just fun and crazy and exciting to think that a former Utah guy, like, who's worked his way up, got his opportunity at the NFL. I think there were a lot of people who were mad when he left for USC. Look, I mean, I just know from a lot of times when you go to a Utah to a USC, just based on the difference in funding in those programs, right? We can talk about NIL and all those things like that. I'm going to assume he got a raise going to USC. And I'm also going to assume he's now getting a raise going to the NFL. He's a guy who did a lot of great things while he was at the University of Utah. So I'm always going to be happy to see these type of guys succeed. And I think it's a great opportunity for him at the NFL level.
Yeah, for sure. He's going to be coaching under Greg Roman, ran a heavy, complex run game in Baltimore. So he's definitely looking for a talented coach to be able to coach up those running backs. It's going to be a complex system to keep them moving down the field. Of course, you brought the Seahawks guy on to talk about a Harbaugh team, so that's a tough break for me right now. But, yeah, it should be a good opportunity for him. yeah, we look at the Zach Moss days and how much success McDonald had out here. It's exciting to see him continue to grow.
Yeah, great opportunity for him in the NFL. And, the spotlight's always going to be on him because he is with Jim Harbaugh now and in the LA media market. It is always going to be a continual spotlight there. And I'm very curious about who his running back's going to be. This is an NFL podcast, but there's a lot of NFL free agent running backs out there. Austin Eckler, one of them. So we'll see who Coach McDonald is taking on. But a great opportunity for him at the NFL, just like Utah's been able to capitalize on some great opportunities, adding talent. And it's exciting to see if Utah can continue to capitalize on the opportunities they have at the NFL Combine. A lot of these guys have gotten the chance to interview, earn some good reviews from within teams, I'm sure, so far to this point. So now have an opportunity to put those skills to the test on the field. It's going to be fun to see how it all plays out at the NFL Combine. So much still going on in Locked On Utes. Make sure you guys continue to follow along with us throughout the week. And Nathan, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, JT.
That is going to do it for our show today. But as a reminder, you can follow Nate on Twitter at CrazyN8. And when you're talking about Nathan as well, catch him on KSL Sports Rewind as well, covering high school football and calling some high school basketball games too. That's going to do it for our show today. A very special guest joining me tomorrow is actually going to be my dad, Tom Wistrcill. He's on the NCAA selection committee, and we're going to be talking all things Utah basketball. I haven't done a basketball-centric episode in a very long time, but with all the bubble scenarios going on for the men's basketball team, it's going to be fun to break that down. Hope you'll join us tomorrow. We'll also talk a little bit about the women's team and where they stand in March Madness, and we look forward to breaking it all down with you then. We'll see you on tomorrow's show.